know how to create OSGi bundles, and we also know how to create Liferay modules or Liferay module projects. So before we get started on all of the fun stuff with developing them, let's first take a look at how we are able to debug the OSGi bundles that we create. Let's head over to the slides here. We're going to be taking a look at what the main objective is for this section. And it's pretty straightforward. We're going to take a look at how we're able to manage OSGi bundles in two different ways. We'll take a look at how to use a command line or the terminal via a Gogo Shell. And we're also going to take a look at a UI application called the Felix Web Console. So we're first going to start off taking a look at the Gogo Shell. So again, the Gogo Shell is all terminal based. And when we're dealing with our OSGi bundles, there's, well, a lot of different things that we want to do. We want to be able to check the status of our bundles, figure out what's wrong, see what state the bundles are in, what our components are doing, and the list kind of goes on and on and on. All of that to say, Gogo Shell is one of our primary tools in regards to debugging any sort of errors within our OSGi bundles. So the Gogo Shell has a lot of cool features behind it. So the Gogo Shell is based off of Tiny Shell Language, or TSL. All of that to say that if you're very familiar with a terminal in a Unix or OS X, a lot of the same things you can do over in that world, you're also able to do over here within the Gogo Shell. Things like piping and variable setting and scripting, and we have a full list over here. But one of the cool things is things like piping. So the Gogo Shell has a number of different commands that we can use, and each one of those different commands are divided into what's known as namespaces or scopes. So that way when you use the command, you kind of have an idea of what its use case is or what it's intended to be used for. For example, one of the namespaces is dependency manager. So based off of that scope or that namespace, we can safely assume that the commands associated with dependency manager do just that, help us with dependency management. Things like Felix or Gogo or SCR, each one has a set of commands used for a specific use case or for a specific reason. So we have a full exhaustive list here. One other thing to note is that each of these different namespaces may have a common command. So for example, you might have an SCR list as well as an OBR list and maybe a verify list. So we may have 3 different list commands, but each one of them may belong into its own respective namespace. So if we're using a command that may exist in multiple namespaces, we have to declare that namespace. So for example, SCR:list, if I want to use the SCR list, or the OBR:list, if I want to use OBR list. So to connect to the Gogo Shell, we typically do it via Telnet. So for us on Windows at least, we have to first enable Telnet or use a Telnet client if we don't feel like enabling it. But when we do connect to the Gogo Shell via Telnet, the default port is 11311 over on localhost. So this is a configurable, so you can head over to the documentation listed here, or you can copy and paste that line that we have right there, paste that over in portal-ext.properties, and you can change the port number to whatever it is that you want. But the default is 11311. So let's go ahead, we'll take a look at a couple of different Gogo Shell commands. So we have a pretty big list of a lot of the common commands that you may probably use. The first command that we list here is the help command. If you're curious as to what commands are available, you can type help, and then it'll show you the complete list of Gogo Shell commands. If you want to exit out of the Gogo Shell, do not type exit. let me say that again. Do not type exit, but rather type disconnect. So disconnect does just that. It will disconnect you from the Gogo Shell. If you type exit, it will shut down the OSGi container and in turn shut down Liferay. So be very careful with that. It's a very common mistake, something that I have done many times in the past. From there, LB is also a very common command and one that we've already used. LB just stands for list bundle. So you'll be using that command again and again and again. Some other ones that I want to highlight, we have a pretty extensive list. The letter B followed by the bundle ID number gives you a kind of synopsis of the bundle. What is its name, what sort of things does it import and export, and so on. Another good command is diag or diag. If something is wrong with an OSGi bundle, you can type diag followed by the bundle ID number, and it'll tell you what's wrong. If it's trying to import something or if there's a requirement not met, diag will let you know. And then the last one I want to highlight here is headers. Headers allows us to basically look at the headers of the manifest file. So also a very useful command. And then one for fun is dmwtf. So that shows you what dependencies are missing. The WTF stands for where's the failure. So kind of a fun command there. You know, developers like to have fun with naming conventions. So let's take a look at a few examples of some Gogo Shell commands and how we can incorporate some of our familiar toolings over in the Unix world or with this tiny shell language. So we start off typing LB for list bundles. The -s is going to show us the symbolic name of the list of bundles. From there, we take the result of LB-s and we pipe that over to grep. So we're going to be searching using grep for the term or for the string blogs. So show me all of the bundles that has blogs within its symbolic name. And that's what that command does right there. Okay, let's take a look at another example here. So LB, again, list bundles, -l is show me the location of my bundles. From there, we take the result of LB-l and pipe it over to search or grep, and we're going to be grepping com Liferay blogs web. So show me the location of a bundle called com Liferay blogs web. So pretty nifty stuff, right? Pretty useful. We can try to find or do a lot of cool things within the Gogo Shell. From here, we can use a command called inspect capability. This allows us to take a look at what services a specific bundle or specific component provides and a lot of the details behind that. Right, so inspect capability service followed by the service number. Okay, another cool command, scrinfo. This allows us to take a look at the information of a specific component. So here, scrinfo for the indexer factory shows us all of the details of that component as well as some of its properties. And you can also check the state of the component as well. Probably one of the more important things that we'll be looking for when using scrinfo. All right, let's keep on going. So there is documentation for the Gogo Shell. If you're really curious about how it works, you can head over to this link here. It'll give you a full PDF of the specification for the Gogo Shell. So pretty good read, right? If you want to have a bedtime story for your kids, right? This is a pretty good read for them as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Gogo Shell together. But before we do, let's add a little bit of context to what we're about to do. So the Gogo Shell itself is something that we're going to be using again and again and again. When something goes wrong, our gut impulse is going to be, let's head over to the Gogo Shell and see what part of the bundle lifecycle our bundle is in. From there, we can then use a couple of other commands to see what's going on and then try to fix it. So in our exercise, what we're going to do is first telnet into the Gogo shell, and from there kind of play with a couple different commands. We'll type lb to take a look at the bundle's lifecycle state. We'll use dmwtf to see if there's any sort of missing dependencies. If we want to take a look at the headers of a specific bundle, and maybe we don't have the source code, we can use the headers command. We can use scrlist and scrinfo to take a look at the list of components as well as the information about the components, respectively. Services allows us to find and get some info about a specific service, and inspect capabilities allows us to do just that. Take a look at the capabilities and the requirements of that specific bundle.